There are two things that I watched in 2022 that I could not stop talking about. Two things that I have recommended to anyone and everyone who will listen. Two things I've watched 4 times this year, and two things I'll probably watch 4 more times in the next year or two. Those things are Christopher Store's The Bear and the Daniels' Everything Everywhere All at Once. The topic of today's video, and I think the clear and obvious choice for the Oscars Best Picture. And let me tell you why. First thing to talk about when addressing this film is its scope. And inherent to that is its ambition. Whenever everyone asks me what this film is about, and I guess I'll tell you guys what this film is about, or at least I will attempt to tell you. It's about a Chinese immigrant laundromat owner who finds out that she has to save the world from a multiversal, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent threat. It's about a man that's trying to divorce his wife. It's about a woman who has seen every single one of her failures and regrets and wishes for a second chance. It's about a woman whose passion in her marriage has completely died out. It's about a father who's constantly disappointed by the failures of his child. It's about a daughter who is struggling to understand and relate and find any common ground with her mother. It's a martial arts film. In some ways, it's an art house film. At some points, it's a silent film. It raises the question of, if we live in a world of infinite choices and permutations, do any of those choices even matter at all? It's got ridiculous scenarios, some slapstick comedy. It's low-key kind of gross at times. It makes me a little, and it drives me to tears. And it is quite literally everything. And it does all of that exceptionally well. I'll start with the martial arts aspect because I love me some fight choreography. And the fight choreography in this is, oh, it is amazing. As someone who binges long take fights, I adore this fight choreography. They take something Michelle Yeoh is known for and they run with it, and it is excellent. On the cultural front, there's decades, if not centuries worth of literature and research about the immigrant experience and all the struggles inherent to that experience. And that struggle, that push and pull, that give and take is on full display in Evelyn, our main character's relationship with both her father and her daughter, Joy. Evelyn's father is a man more set in traditional Chinese customs, and Evelyn carries with her the weight of his expectations of her as a Chinese mother, as well as the full brunt of his disappointment and all of her various disappointments and misgivings. We see that Evelyn's father is upset about Evelyn's choice in a happy-go-lucky and foolish husband that he begged her not to marry. He's disappointed in her failings as a business owner because the laundromat is not doing well. Whenever Evelyn's daughter, his granddaughter, speaks Chinese, he's disappointed in her lack of mastery. For Evelyn's daughter Joy, Evelyn's dealing with even further disappointment. But now it's centering around Evelyn's inability to understand Joy's experience, Joy's identity, or even get Joy's partner's pronouns right. There's already a layer of misunderstanding given the generational gap of mother and daughter, and then add the immigrant experience to that. Add the heavy emphasis that a lot of immigrant communities place on higher education. So consider that, and then consider the fact that Joy is a college dropout. Consider the fact that Joy got a tattoo. I mean, granted, her tattoo is supposed to symbolize her family, but her mom is clearly not happy with that. And then, of course, there's the topic of Joy's sexuality. This film really illustrates the role of cultural diversity and the generational gap in understanding the gender and sexual spectrum. I think most people could agree that the younger you are, the more Western you are, whatever that really means, and the more visibility you have to queer communities, the more tolerant you typically are, the more you understand things about the gender and sex spectrum. Now, this isn't to say that the West is doing everything right. Especially here in the States, we're doing a lot to roll back any protections for LGBTQ folks. Evelyn's family is Chinese. And at least in China, there are little to few anti-discrimination laws in the books. I think about Evelyn's quote, "You lucky you have a mom that's okay with you dating a girl." And the first thing that comes to mind, given my experience with immigrant communities, is, yeah, I know a few East Asian queer folk who come out to their families, and it is, it's not easy. And oftentimes parents don't understand. So I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess she is a lucky one. But there are levels to being okay, right? There's tolerating, there's accepting, and then there's loving, there's being proud. Where Evelyn lies on that spectrum of being okay with her daughter's sexuality and her girlfriend, it's hard to say in the beginning of the film. But by the end of the film, you see them fully integrate Becky, Joy's girlfriend, into the fold with open arms. Another thing about this film and how it discusses the relationship between cultural diversity and the LGBTQ community is just almost like a, not necessarily a throwaway line, but a line that Evelyn just says as a matter of fact that I was shocked at. Joy's berating Evelyn about not getting Becky's pronouns right. Evelyn says, you know, in Chinese, there are no gender-specific pronouns. We just use the same word for everyone. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. And I think that's so interesting and cool. I think it also says something about how difficult it is to relearn things. No, in Evelyn's experience, she goes from a language that has no gender-specific pronouns in Chinese, and then you get to America, and then you have the hims and the hers and the she's and he's, and the theys and them. I'm sure that she was taught, about the singular and then the plural, and all of a sudden there's a further shift in which they and them can now be singular. It's probably pretty hard to, learn that. And I'm not trying to make any excuses for people who just actively choose not to use people's pronouns, because those people are just typically not great people. I think we have to register there can be some difficulty in transitioning from doing something you've done for the entirety of your life, and all of a sudden having that change. There's a bit of a learning curve. We can't talk about this film and not talk about the multiverse and the implications that the multiverse has on all of our characters. Now, we've been seeing a lot about the multiverse in a lot of media, primarily in comic book media. This multiverse is a bit different. It's not like a Marvel multiverse where everyone just meets their counterparts and everyone's having a jolly old time. No, this multiverse kind of actually reminds me of more of a DC multiverse, specifically Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. And in that multiverse, we have a version of Batman who basically finds out about the existence of the multiverse and determines that that means nothing matters. In a multiverse of infinite possibilities, in one universe you may be taking 2 steps forward, in another universe you're taking 2 steps back. In one universe you may decide to save a life, in another universe you decide to take a life. Any action you have is basically negated by another action that another counterpart you has. Does it sound familiar at all? It's almost exactly what Jobu Tabaki is going through in Everything Everywhere All at Once. She too believes that in the universe in which she has someone that she loves, there's another universe in which that person dies before they even meet. And a universe in which her and her mother have a great relationship. There's a universe in which her mother drives her to be evil. Nothing matters. But instead of Jobu trying to destroy everything, she's more focused on destroying herself. This interpretation of the multiverse is one that just supports all the foundations of nihilism. Now, I'm not a philosopher, so I can't give you all of the details. But in short, nihilism is the belief that there is no objective truth, morality, or significance to anything whatsoever. Nothing matters in nihilism. What if the happiest day in your life was followed by the saddest, most tragic day in your life? Then you went back to the happiest day of your life, and so on and so forth. All of these events are happening all at the same time for Jobu. How can you feel like there's any meaning to it when the sum of all those events just equals 0? And that's a really interesting philosophical and moral quandary to put the audience through. It's really depressing, honestly. And the response to it, the counter to it, is not typical, because the film doesn't necessarily reject the premise of the idea that a multiverse equates to nihilism. It states that maybe there is no objective truth or significance to anything. So instead, Evelyn's going to find and bring her own meaning to something. And that meaning is love. That meaning is a relationship with her daughter. That meaning is the love of her husband. That meaning is family. Maybe this universe is just one of a whole bunch. Maybe the multiversal calculus equates to a general 0. But in this time, in this moment, I am going to make this moment meaningful.
Then I will cherish these few specks of time.
The film is engorged with messages, themes, motifs, philosophical notions that are presented and then rejected or challenged. It can be really hard to follow the plot of the story. But the major through line, the thread that connects everything that's going on in this movie is the love, the relationships, the family. That's the heart of this film. I mean, at the point of the film in which Evelyn attains the power to save Jobu and her daughter, she basically has to go through a crash course of therapy. She has to confront her father. A father who just basically let her go off to America for we don't know how many years. A father who was always disappointed in her. It's the love that Wayman has for Evelyn that basically gives her an anime power-up. Instead of going Ultra Instinct, she goes Ultra Empath. Before she can even get her anime power-up, she really has to reconcile her relationship with Wayman. She always saw him as a weakling. She's diminished the importance he has in her life. She thinks that her life will be better off without him. She says it to his face. We have hot dog Jamie Lee Curtis, who just misses the love of her life and finally gets to reconcile with them all over again. And all this action basically crescendos to a climax that's just a conversation between Evelyn and Joy. That's it. That is the climax of the film, a conversation. And at this point, you are not already crying. Just get them Kleenexes ready, because this is a part of the film that has gotten me on all 4 watches. I have never gotten out of this part of this film not crying. And to those of you who can, I'm glad you and your parents have such a great relationship. I am glad that you can come out of this situation not crying, because every single friend I've seen this movie with, every single one has come out of this film crying, except for those who are really good with their parents. Now, to more traditional film critique, the visuals. Now, this film is not Avatar 2 or even Avatar 1, but James Cameron is another echelon when it comes to visuals. But this thing is just a beauty to look at. It is stunning. There's a YouTube video about how the Daniels and their process for making this film, and apparently their visual effects team was 5 people. That is astounding. There's a number of practical effects, but like, let me just talk about my favorite thing. We got the aspect ratio changes whenever we shift from a normal scene to a fight scene that they don't even try to hide. It's a glorious thing to witness. We have the shot of all the multiversal Evelyns. It's just gorgeous to behold, but also kind of facetious, so just keep that in mind. And with the fight scene between Evelyn and Jobu, it just seamlessly shifts from universe to universe. And then one of my favorite little really particular things is the point of view shot of the fanny pack when Wayman's fighting all the security guards. Even with all that said, even with all the wonderful visuals, my favorite scene from this film is just a landscape shot with rocks, text, and no words spoken whatsoever. And I think that is just a testament to the performances here. Michelle Yeoh does an incredible job. She does she just kills it in a row, both emotionally and physically. That's the toll it takes on the body to do all that martial arts. It's Ke Kwan, oh man, he is a glory. He justifies the existence of every person who's told they are just too nice for the world. Like we need more people like him. But Stephanie Sue, my God, to play a multiversal, jaded, higher echelon being, and then also play a struggling, sympathetic daughter, she just blows out of the water. And then Jamie Lee Curtis. I bought it. But without the sublime characterization by these actors, you don't get a scene like the rock scene and make it work. I fully believe that these rocks are Evelyn and Joy. I fully believe it. There are very few moments while I'm in the theater and I'm thinking, I am sharing a once-in-a-lifetime experience with the rest of the people in this theater. It's, in a way, it's kind of a microcosm of the film in the sense that, like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that scene before. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like this movie before in my life. And maybe that's me, maybe that's my own ignorance, maybe I'm not watching enough movies, maybe there's a movie like this that comes out every single year and I just don't know about it. Could be. But I don't know if I'll ever see anything like this ever again in my life. I mean, this movie basically justifies every single reason why I watch movies. You know, sometimes I just want some really great action. Sometimes I want to see a really great, interesting story. Maybe I want to see something that's just like visually incredible. Sometimes I just want to see something that makes me feel, that just hits me in my core, that shows me that in a world full of stimulation, other people also feel like they're not doing enough, they're not adequate enough. They also rethink all of their past mistakes and just keep living in this world in which all these things that have not happened have happened. This film does all of that. It does all of that so incredibly well. And I think for now that's it. I could talk about this film for hours. I think this movie is phenomenal. I don't think it's perfect. I think very few things are ever perfect. I think the runtime is kind of long, not because it's boring or it drags, but just because there is so much here. There's a lot going on visually and like content-wise and emotionally. There's everything going on. So it can be hard to ask people to sit through that. But ultimately, I don't think these other films, and these other films that I've watched are phenomenal, but I don't think any of these other films could stand to do what this film did. The fact that the Daniels were able to turn this idea and create something concrete and good, like really good. It's awesome.